Every once in a while when we do Today in Rock History, we come across a little hidden gem, I guess. And not that this is anything to be celebrated, but it's so shocking and, I don't even know how else to put it. We spoke to Matt, who was at this game in 1989 when it happened, the St. Louis Blues and the Buffalo Sabres. Clint Malarchuk was in goal.
Here's the pass, on into the Buffalo zone. Mahar goes to the corner of the pass, and oh, wow!
But watch Malarchuk. That's the story right now with the red. Oh, look, man! That is the...
Oh, my God.
Oh, please take the camera off, but don't even bring it over there, please.
Oh, my God.
Just keep it away.
Oh, terrible.
Oh, my God, what happened?
You're watching Sabres hockey on the Niagara Frontier Sports Network. Oh.
Boy, they go right to commercials, and that says it all.
Well, what happened was a horrible accident that could have been deadly but was not. We talked about it, but Michaels mentioned he was looking at a photo from the game, and he said, "Oh, look at number 20. Look at Tom Tilley. He looks just like he's in shock." And I recognize that name because in the late '80s, Michaels and I were in Peoria doing radio, and I recognize that name as a Riverman player.
Tom Tilley, you could see. Go to twodorks.com if you've never seen this video. First of all, it's shocking, but the look on Tom Tilley's face, I mean, he's 6-7 feet away from it, really says it all. Number 20 at the time for the St. Louis Blues, Tom Tilley is on the phone with us. Hey, buddy, how's it going?
Good, guys. How you doing?
Good. Thanks for talking to us. I know this is kind of a weird reason to call, but we just happened to see the anniversary came up of that incident. And is that one of those things that's just seared in your memory that you'll never, ever forget?
Yeah. You know, your timing is interesting because it was Steve Tuttle who was playing right wing, and when he was breaking down the wing, Uwe Krug, big German defenseman, pulled his feet out from under him towards the net.
Oh.
That's what caused, and Malarchuk was down trying to guard the post, but he was already down, so that was when the skate came across and cut his jugular vein. And the interesting thing is, I haven't seen Steve Tuttle in over 20 years, and next weekend he's going to be in St. Louis. There's a huge Blues alumni and Blues players charity event. He's flying in from Washington to be at the event. First time in over 20 years I've seen him. So
don't be the first guy to bring it up, dude. Don't be the first to mention it, because that really sets the tone for the evening.
Well, the interesting thing was he retired the next day, and nobody knows it.
Are you serious?
Yeah. And Clint Malarchuk called him a couple of days later and said, "You can't let this ruin your career." And so that's the backstory that a lot of people never heard. He was, and Steve is he's now a very successful CPA, and but I think it's one of those things that haunted him for a long time, and it was. But that was, my fiance was now my wife was at the game. She was going to school. She's from Canada, and she went from Toronto to Buffalo.
Yeah,
and it was people were throwing up in the stands. I remember Grant Ledyard, who was the other defenseman for Buffalo. The two doors to come on the ice were right to Malarchuk's left and right when you came on the ice. Unfortunately, he was right by where their doctor was. And Grant Ledyard was in the corner pounding on the glass. He was in shock. If you think my face was crazy. And so when I came in, I was playing right defense, and they show people show this to me all the time in my son's phys ed class. They actually showed the video in his phys ed class. I don't think they even knew my son was in the class.
Jeez, what kind of school is this?
But one of the magazines had like a shot by shot with a camera, and I was coming in late because it turned into a mini brawl in the corner. And then when I got to about the tops of the circle, when I saw Clint come up and pop off his mask and I saw the blood, I knew it had happened. I turned back to the Buffalo bench to grab their trainer because, of course, they're wearing shoes trying to run on ice.
Yep.
So I grabbed him and started dragging him toward Clint. And so that shot you see of me was just probably the trainer was just somewhere in the mix there, but Yeah, that was one of the most bizarre things and scary things that I'd ever seen.
And this is one of those things where it's unique to hockey, I think. And at the beginning, before we brought you on, we worked in Peoria. We followed the Rivermen, big hockey town here in the Quad Cities. What's interesting is hockey players will go and beat the crap out of each other, and then at the end of the third period, hey man, you need a lift down to the bar? I'm driving if you want to go. It's off. All adversity, all me against you and that's one of those moments where everybody came together. Is it true they stopped the game until the coaches and the officials got word that Clint was stabilized and was going to be okay?
I don't recall it that way.
Okay.
So Brian Sutter was the coach of the Blues, and
Yeah.
Ted Sater was the coach of the Buffalo Sabres, and I've been coached by both of them. So Ted Sater ended up becoming a coach when I was in St. Louis. And the thing is that I know a buddy of mine who I played junior with was the captain of the Sabres at the time, and I know that Ted and Brian had agreed that they wanted to play the game, and the reason that we went to our locker rooms because there was so much blood on the ice that they had to scrape it up, and it took, so I can't remember, it was midway through the second, I think, or something like that.
Okay.
And, so they sent us to our locker rooms, first of all, because the scene was so grotesque, and secondly, because they needed to figure out whether they were going to continue on with the game or not, and they had to scrape up all the blood off the ice. So when all I remember is Brian Sutter coming in and saying to us, "Okay, boys, we got a game to play." And you look at our goalies, Greg Millen and Vinny Riando, the looks on their face were like, "Are you effing kidding me?"
Coach, I got a stomach bug all of a sudden. I'm out.
Yeah, no doubt.
Okay, so that
I know what happened in Buffalo's locker room. Teddy went in there and told them, "Hey, boys, we got a game to play," and the captain stood up and told them, "Get the F out of the locker room." Because, we don't, at that point, nobody knew whether he was alive or not.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, if you're just joining us, Tom Tilley is on the phone, played with the St. Louis Blues, played with the Rivermen, played with the Wolves, and we'll talk about that in just a second here. Tom was on the ice. You can see him wearing number 20 in the video. That's at twodorks.com. It's something that's, boy, I bet you hate to have that incident come back to, you're kind of tied to it forever, no matter what, because you were there, and your reaction, honest to God, your reaction just tells it all. That your jaw just drops, and it's kind of. I stopped watching it because it's.
What I like is from our conversation that you told us immediately something we did not know, and that was that Tuttle was going to quit. He was going to retire, and Clint, a foreshadowing type of a moment, said to him, "No, man, just keep playing, keep doing what you do." And now you fast forward these years, and Clint is out, and he and his wife go and they speak. They speak about not only surviving that, but also the other personal demons that he's had to deal with, and after that happened. But it's interesting that he's still motivating people to not give up and to keep on doing what they're doing. I think that's very cool.
Yeah, that's when somebody goes through that, and I won't equate it for someone who comes back from war, because that would be a really bad comparison. But it's the trauma that was certainly with Clint, and I would venture to say with Steve. And then when I see him next weekend, that won't even be part of a conversation at all. It's not. It's just something that no one will talk about.
Right.
And fortunately or unfortunately, after that game, we've got to go play the next. And when we found out that Clint was going to live, it was just something that no one really talked about after that.
Did it?
We were trying to make a run for the playoffs, and that's the sort of microcosm of professional sports. It's like, hey, someone got hurt. They don't want you around when you're hurt, and because we've got another game to play tomorrow night, and that's what we're going to focus on. And that's the nature of professional sports. But when something like that happens, it's pretty hard not to be affected.
Boy, that's a test, huh?
And that's why we so appreciate you talking to us about it, because it is something that doesn't come up often, or that's something you even want to really talk about. But did it change anything about the way you approached the game after that, in general?
No. I think everybody just looked at as a freak accident.
Yeah.
I don't think, and you can't think about those things when you're going on the ice.
Well,
You just got to think about doing your job and whatever that might be, and there, and react to situations. And if you're thinking about those things, you're going to get hurt.
Yeah.
Tom Tilley is on the phone with us, played for the St. Louis Blues. Let's go back to Peoria and the Rivermen. Dwyer and I were just starting out doing mornings. This is in the air, and I'll see if you remember this. The Rivermen, it was the MTV line. Do you remember that? Michelle Mongeau, Dave Tomlinson, and I want to say, is it Pat Vesey?
Jimmy Vesey.
Jim Vesey. And then who was the guy that we tolerated but nobody really liked? Scott Pollock, right? Poochie. I'm not lying. He was our buddy. He was the only one who would really hang out with us. He kind of got us into Sully's just to hang with you guys. How many games or seasons did you play with the Rivermen?
So I was in St. Louis my entire rookie year, and then my second year, about halfway through, I got injured, hurt my back, and so then I was up and down for the rest of that season. Mm-hmm. And then I started the next season in Peoria, and then I was up for the second half of that season, my third season. So I was up and down a couple of times for various reasons. But what happened with me was so that the 90 season when we won the Turner Cup. Yeah, was when I was down for the first half of the season when we won, whatever it was, 17 in a row, and then I was up for the second half of the season. And when we lost out to Detroit in the playoffs, and Peoria was still going, I talked to Brian Sutter, who was the coach still at the time for the Blues, and I said to him, I'm like, I got enough games in Peoria to go back down and play. And I asked him, I said, can I, are you guys okay with me going back?
Yeah,
it was like, you want to do that? You do that? And I'm like, why not? I mean, I played with those guys half the year. We won 17 in a row. We set a modern day record for wins in a row.
Yeah.
So, I went down and played the last called 2.5 series, and we won the Turner Cup in Fort Wayne and rode the fire trucks through Peoria and partied for about 4 days straight at Sully's.
Yeah, and he bought, which is always good. We can't go back there anymore because our tabs are still due. Yeah. But dude, you got to go and edit your Wikipedia page, because here's what it says: Tilley then bounced between the Blues and their IHL affiliate Peoria Rivermen. That makes it sound like a bad thing. Peoria was a fun town for hockey players back in those days.
Oh, you kidding? Big Al's, yeah, all the way.
Okay.
Big Al's, I'm not familiar.
But also, Tom, you played for the Wolves, and John Anderson, who coached the Mallards to their first 50-game win season and their first championship cup, and then went on to bigger and better things with the Wolves. Was he already coaching when you played for Chicago?
He came in the same year that I did in '98, and so Johnny, we won 2 Turner Cups in whatever it was, 4 years. I think we won in '98 and then 2001. And that was I had serious concussions in 2001, and that was my last year. But
Sir Johnny, he's such an even keel, cool dude. Unless you're a piece of chewing gum in his mouth, man, during those chew the hell out of a piece of gum. But we got great memories of John, and of course he went on to huge things. I don't know. Did they put him like in the Wolves Hall of Fame or something? Because I think he's still up there, isn't he?
He is, yeah. I mean, he coached in the NHL. He was an assistant in Phoenix, and I think it's tough being a coach. I had an opportunity to coach with him when I was done playing. Marty Howe was coaching the defense, and I could have had a chance to coach when I finished playing. And it's a strain on your family moving around like that when you have little kids, and I think. For Johnny, he moved around enough that he just got to the point where, having stability and going back to Chicago and the familiarity. The owner in Chicago, Don Levin, was a wonderful man who treated his coaches, players, so well. And, Wendell Young, who's the GM there, who was the goalie when I played, he's the one who brought Johnny back. And he's a great coach. He's a player's coach. He gives you the plan and you go out and execute.
Yeah.
He doesn't get all bent out of shape on the bench, except at referees. And that's why his face goes so red. Gene Ubriaco, no hockey guy from Chicago, used to call him Johnny Tomatoes.
Yeah.
His face gets so red.
Johnny Tomatoes. Well, man, it's fun catching up with you. We have great memories of. We were telling the audience earlier this morning. Curtis Joseph, I believe, was the goalie at that time back in Peoria, and he was the $1 million man. He's on this $1 million contract, and Tony Twist, Kelly Chase.
Oh man.
Man, you would go and watch him beat the hell out of people, and then go, hey, show me your knuckles. That'd be over at Sully's after the game. Check it out, right there is a tooth in my.
I saw him. He ran a goalie, the Milwaukee goalie, who two-handed Twister in the back of the legs.
Yeah.
Puck goes the other way. He ends up getting the puck, dumps it in from center ice. The goalie goes in the corner to play it. He went full speed and ran the goalie. You want to talk about a gruesome sight? They had to drive the ambulance on the ice the full length of the ice to carry this guy out.
Now, if you're going to make up stories about our friend, I'm not going to sit here and listen to these lies, because that does not sound like the man I know.
He's my friend too, for that exact reason.
Yeah, it was. He drew a lot of attention, didn't he? Boy.
Now, what year was it that after that win where they set that record? This was the Rivermen. They went into a slump, and it was just as bad the other direction. I remember Pollock telling us, we're like, well, what are they doing to try and get you guys out of this losing streak? He's
they had like a hypnotist come in.
A hypnotist and like a therapist. He's like, it's stupid. They make us watch these movies. It's dumb. It's not going to work. We're like, well, what's going to work? He's like, well, we got to win.
Yeah.
Well, yeah.
He said the whole reason they went on that slide was because Tom got called back up to St. Louis.
Exactly.
Was that so? That must have been the following season, I think. Does that sound about right? Maybe you probably weren't there. It was like
he's a hockey player with concussions. Don't ask him stuff like that.
I remember the win streak, but man, and the papers were just brutal because it was as awesome as it was when they were winning. Then the next season, I think it started off. They were unwinned at the beginning, and he's telling us that, oh man, they're bringing in another shrink today.
Happy birthday. I know your birthday is coming up at next week. I just noticed that on hockeyreference.com. But happy birthday coming up. We're the same age.
And Tom, where are you at right now? Where do you live?
I live in Overland Park, Kansas, which is the south suburb of Kansas City. And so when I finished playing, I went to work actually for CBS in management in Chicago, running the Chicago Blackhawk radio network for the Scores, 670 in Chicago. And then I actually moved to Kansas City to start up a sports radio station for Entercom Radio out of Pennsylvania.
Mm-hmm. Got a slot for a couple of guys who don't really know about sports.
Right.
Who could talk about sports,
Well, actually, I went to work for one of my clients about 12 years ago in investment banking. So if you want to get into investment banking, you can come to Leawood, Kansas, and we might have an empty space for you.
And leave the lucrative world of
radio? I don't think so.